So this comes with Windows 10 Home. What the? Like, come on. Let's get rid of that Windows Home. Let's get some Windows Pro. Copy and paste my code from the description. You can also get Office 2019. Just paste my code. Woof. It's Windows Pro time. Yes. Woo. No, I'm going to hold that back because, hey, we don't know how good it is. Got to get it in the hands. But anyway, Apple, if you don't know, released the MacBook Pro, the new 16-inch MacBook Pro, and there are so many different configurations. I'm going to tell you in this video which one you should get, what options you should upgrade, which ones you shouldn't do. I'm going to save you some money because there are some options there you definitely should not select. And I'm going to tell you which configuration is better for which sort of work, if you're a music producer, if you're a video editor or, 3D visual effects and stuff like that. I'll tell you what configuration you'll need. So let's get into it. You can see here, it is a beautiful thing. Looks like the last MacBook Pro. Yeah, it is nice looking. They've upgraded the cooling. I will do a separate video on just my thoughts on this. This isn't this video. I'm just going to tell you which one you should buy and the mistakes you should not make, buying this. And so here are the configurations. Got the US side up. You have two options to start off with, 6-core and 8-core. One on the left with i7, one on the right with i9. Now, it's actually a decent price when you think that, you get a 1 terabyte as standard now in the higher end model, and you also get the best graphics in the higher end model too. You don't have to upgrade the SSD or the graphics now. So that's good. So it's actually a decent price. Now, should you get the i7, i9? Well, your budget is your budget. The i9 is better. There's no doubt about it. Extra 2 cores. Also, from my testing on these i9s, I've had loads of them. Yeah, better performance per watt. They are a super bin part. So when it comes to 6-core versus the 8-core, if you're a video editor, you want the 8-core. If you're doing any 3D or visual effects, After Effects, you want the 8 cores. Even if you're doing music, you want the 8 cores. In actual fact, just get the 8-core if you can afford it. I guess that sort of makes it easy. If your budget can only fit the 6-core, then so be it. It still is a beast of a processor. 6 cores, you get amazing performance. I guess a lot of stuff is hardware accelerated now. So if you use Final Cut and even Premiere and DaVinci and stuff like that, sometimes they don't rely on the CPU that much. It's definitely better to get in the graphics, especially when they're going to use maybe the T2 chip to accelerate, to encode HEVC or even Intel's QuickSync and stuff like that. It might not use the CPU that much and it may use the graphics more. If you're dealing with H.264, H.265, general consumer stuff, yeah, the 6-core can still be a solid option. As long as you get the better graphics, that's the one thing you want to do. So now I'm going to get into a configuration. I'm going to tell you what not to waste your money on what sort of apps you sort of use and stuff like that. So first of all, the first thing, if you get the top end configuration i9, do not upgrade to the 5 gigahertz version. You're going to get no benefit out of that. I've tested so many, especially in the Mac. These will peak up to 100 watts, so you still will get actually battery drain with 96 watt power pack. There's virtually no benefits whatsoever to getting the 5 gigahertz model. Now it is slightly faster, just minutely. And if you got the money, you're spending a lot of money anyway, well, go for it. If you really want it, go for it. But this is where you can save yourself $200 straight away, straight there. More importantly is the graphics, okay? The two most important upgrades you have to do is the graphics and the RAM. 16 gigabytes, I don't recommend that at all anymore. I can hit a 16 gigabyte limit just editing simple videos, even full HD on Ultrabooks that have 16 gigs, It's really easy to use 16 gigs these days. So I think the minimum you want is 32 gigs. Now, should you get the 64 gigs? Well, I can actually reach the limit of 32. Not very often, but you got to think that at the moment I'm dealing with 4K video, right? And I can still hit the 32 gig limit. So next year I expect, there's already 6K cameras, the Blackmagic 6K pocket camera or whatever, and I expect there's going to be a lot of 6K cameras next year, maybe even 8K cameras. That's when you're thinking, well, if I'm spending this money and maybe I'll upgrade my camera in the next 2 years, I'm going to have this laptop for a couple of years, well, maybe I need the memory. Even for music production, man, I've seen some of those projects where the guys have got so many plugins, so many friggin' tracks that 32 won't even touch the sides. And we know for visual effects 3D, 32, you could easily use 32 gigs, especially for After Effects. You can use a ton of memory with After Effects. So if you're just going to be doing 4K stuff, 32 is plenty enough. But if you are going to have this laptop for a long time and you may upgrade to 6K, or you're going to do After Effects or, heavy duty, music production, you may want to consider that 64 gigs. Now, when it comes to the graphics, if you're a music producer, you don't need the best graphics. Actually, you could go to the i7 model, just get the i9 and just, be done with it and just upgrade the RAM. But if you're doing video editing, get the 8 gig. Now, where they come up with this 80% faster and whatever, we know how fast this is. We've already got tests. Go see Own and Disown. He's already tested laptops with the 5500M. From his testing, it's a little bit slower than the 1660. Now, he had a laptop with Ryzen CPU, so there would be some bottleneck with the Ryzen CPU. So maybe at best, it's going to be as fast as the 1660 graphics card. So that means it's faster than the XPS. So it's faster than the 1650 for sure. If you look at the Vega 20, the Vega 20 was slightly slower than a 1650. So this may fall in between a 1650 and a 1660, at best equal to a 1660 or maybe slightly better with an Intel CPU. But that's in a PC. This is slightly custom with the Mac and it won't have the same TDP. It will have a lower TDP. I mean, you can get up to 80 watts with those ones in the laptops of PC. So you're not going to have 80 watts in this package, no chance. But what you do get is the 8 gigabyte option. Now, the rule of thumb is the amount of K your footage is the amount of video memory you need. So you got 4K footage, you want 4 gigabytes of RAM, 6K, 8K, you want 6 or 8 gigabytes of video memory. I definitely recommend this upgrade if you're a video editor, After Effects, 3D or anything like that. Get the 8 gigabyte, and that's where they're getting that 80% from. Like if you're using MATLAB or something like that, if you've got 8 gigabytes of memory versus 4, you're going to get that 80% boost because you'll fill up the 4 gigabytes no problem. Now for video editing, 4K, you could get away with the 4 gigabyte, but there's no room for expansion there if you wanted to go to 5K, 6K or above. So the two best upgrades to get is the RAM and the graphics. They're the recommended upgrades. Get at least 32 gigs. And if you can get there, get this graphics. In actual fact, even if you're a video editor, I'd rather have a 6-core i7 and the updated graphics and upgraded RAM rather than have an i9 and the lower RAM. So even in the i7 configuration for video editing, if your budget's a bit constrained, get the i7, get the RAM upgrade to 32 gigs and get the graphics upgrade to at least the 4 gigabyte graphics card. That is the best solution rather than going to the other one and getting the i9 and not upgrading the RAM. I mean, you'll get this graphics. If you get the i9 anyway, you'll get the good graphics, but you're better off having 32 gigs RAM and an i7 versus the slower graphics card. Now, the slower graphics card will be quieter. There's no doubt. If you've got an eGPU, you don't have to worry about that, but that is definitely my recommendation there. Now, when it comes to storage, you know what's funny here? I could live with 512 gigabytes. Easily live with 5. I don't have stuff on my Mac. I have most of my stuff on the NAS, and I only have the projects I'm working on video editing on this. I don't have a ton of photos here. I don't store stuff on this. In actual fact, if this died tomorrow, all that I would lose is the current project I'm working on. That's all I'd lose. And maybe if I've been lazy, the other projects that I've left on there. Now, with 512 gigabytes, I can have at least 4 video projects for YouTube on this system. With 1 terabyte, I've never actually used over half a terabyte. Even with like 6 projects, I would think I was just hitting 500 gig. Now, of course, I don't think I have to tell you if you're dealing in ProRes or anything like that, or ProRes RAW and stuff like that, huge video files, you probably know what you're doing anyway and you know you need the storage. But if you're dealing H.265, stuff like that, the good thing standard with the top tier spec, the i9 version, you get 1 terabyte. That'll probably be enough unless you just want to store everything on your system. Well, only you know your needs in that regard. But certainly for me, 1 terabyte would be plenty. I actually have a 2 terabyte. Sometimes when I'm lazy, I'll have 4 or 5 projects. I'll use up to half a terabyte. That's about it. Everything else is on my NAS. And did you know that if you wanted the best performance in video editing, it's actually better to have your source files on another drive, on another SSD, external SSD. It's better having it on the drive that your actual operating system is installed on. So anyway, that's what I recommend. Do not upgrade to the highest spec i9, waste the money. RAM, minimum 32 gigs. You can get the i7 if you're video editing, but make sure you get the 32 gigs and the better graphics card. If you can afford it, get the best graphics card. I think this configuration right here is the perfect sweet spot. You've got the i9, you've got the 8 cores, you've got 32 gigs. And look, the 1 terabyte, you're going to know how much storage you need. But, I'd get the 8 gigabytes. It's only $100 more. It's going to benefit you in the future. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for videos on this. I'll have loads of videos on this new MacBook Pro 16. We'll have my just thoughts on it. I'll release that video today. I'll catch you next one, guys. Tally ho.